Welcome to Lazy Town, a place that you wanna stay. I don't care what anyone says, that is a banger. Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Cloudy, and today is a very special day because we are diving into one of my favorite and most nostalgic childhood shows. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the origins of Lazy Town and talking extensively about the mythology and folklore that is involved in it. And I'll sprinkle in a few theories here and there. Let's start. So, Lazy Town actually originated from a book series created by Magnus Scheving. If there's any Icelandic individuals watching, feel free to correct my pronunciation. Magnus Scheving was the two-time European aerobic gymnastics champion. He created the idea of Lazy Town because he wanted to encourage kids to move and be active. He came out with a book series called Afram Latibier. Way too much sauce on that pronunciation, y'all, I'm sorry. Afram Latibier, which translates to Go Lazy Town. He published the book series in 1995, and this later inspired a stage play by the same name. The stage play started in 1996, where Magnus played the main character, the sports elf, Iprotalfurin, or currently Sporticus, and a later stage play introduced the character of Glani Gleipur, or currently Robbie Rotten, played by the one and only Stephen Carl Stephenson. The stage play toured throughout Iceland and became a household name, and in 2000, development began and it was pitched to Nickelodeon. In 2004, it was aired for the first time, and it has had massive success since its release. Now that we've gone over the real-world development of the series, let's talk a little bit about the characters and the plot. Lazy Town as a concept focuses on a town by the name of Lazy Town, in which the residents are out of shape, lazy, and not active at all. The series stars a young girl named Stephanie who is new in town. Sorry, there is no other way to start it. She is a dancer, and in the original stage play, she was an out-of-shape dancer. She calls on Sporticus, the sports elf, and a local superhero to help the residents of Lazy Town become less lazy. The residents include the mayor, Meanswell, his secretary of sorts, Bessie Busybody, and the children, Ziggy, Stingy, Trixie, and Pixel. In the stage play, there are additional characters as well, such as Jives, Officer Obtuse, and Penny, who only shows up once. There's also the resident villain or bad guy of the town, Robbie Rotten, whose goal is to make everyone lazy so he can also be lazy in peace. The show then goes through various wacky, fun episodes where Robbie tries to send Sporticus away and tries to make the town lazy through various disguises, eventually being thwarted by the children, Sporticus, or oftentimes himself. It's a very enjoyable show, actually, that is very fun to watch, and I really enjoyed it when I was a kid. There is a lot of different, almost magical stuff in the show, and it's very interesting and the topic for our next section. From this point on, we are going into the lore of Lazy Town, which includes theories, speculation, and most prominently and most importantly, folklore and mythology. We are going to be focusing on Icelandic and Norse mythology and folklore, as well as Germanic and overall European mythology as a whole, and the various creatures and concepts present in those. I want to make it clear that I am not Icelandic, nor am I from a culture that Norse mythology stems from, or really any European mythology or folklore, nor do I have any cultural knowledge on these topics. These are primarily things that I have researched on the internet and have found for myself. I tried my best to research this topic as best as I could, but I might have missed something, or maybe I've gotten something wrong. And if that's the case, I apologize. If there is anyone watching that has knowledge of Icelandic or Norse mythology and folklore, please feel free to comment your expertise. It would be super interesting to learn. Now, having said that, let's get into it. So, you may have heard me earlier call Sportacus a sports elf. Essentially, in the show, that means that he is very fit and eats fruits and veggies, or sports candy, as the show calls it. But in terms of Icelandic folklore, it gets a bit more interesting. Firstly, there's no such thing as a sports elf. Instead, Icelandic folklore has two terms used to describe elves and other creatures. The first is alfar, which directly means elf, and the second term is huldufolk, or the hidden people. Alfar is a much older term and was used by Norse settlers. Huldufolk is a much more recent and specific term used to talk about the hidden people of Iceland. The hidden people, as the name suggests, are only able to be seen when they want to be and tend to stay to themselves. The concept of elves first appears in Old Norse mythology and is also mentioned in the Icelandic books Poetic and Prose Edda. The Edda is an Old Norse textbook dating back to the 13th century. In it are various mentions of Norse gods and creatures. The most common idea of an elf is one of magic, beauty, and danger. If you're familiar with Norse mythology, you might have heard of the Aesir or the Esse. They are gods in Germanic and Norse mythology, and according to Old Norse texts, specifically the Poetic Edda, the Aesir and Alfar are the same. In most Old Norse and Germanic and medieval texts, elves were seen as dangerous, demonic, and ferocious creatures who were masters of deceit and cunning. It's not until after the medieval era, in the later Middle Ages, that the term elf started to become similar to the term fairy used in French and other European folktales. It's interesting to know, but elves in Norse and Scandinavian/Germanic mythology bear a striking similarity to fae and fairies. The concepts of a fairy circle and of being spirited away are all present in mythology concerning elves. In modern times, elves are seen as either beautiful, elegant figures or little men wearing caps. It's important to know, though, that both elves and fairies are terms used in a broad sense, sometimes to describe various creatures. Now that I've talked your ear off about mythology, let's talk about how this relates to the show. So, obviously, Sportacus is said to be an elf. In both the show and in mythology, this doesn't have that much impact, really. Sportacus is most likely immortal or has a title passed down, as we hear Stephanie mention a number 9, and the stage play has a brotalfurin, which many believe is number 9. However, there is something that ties Sportacus to the concept of elves, or rather the hidden people of Iceland. In Iceland, as I was researching, I found that many Icelandic people often leave offerings to the hidden folk, and most of the time, these offerings tend to be berries or fruits of some sort. There lies that connection between Sportacus and the history of elves. Now, we are getting into the realm of theories and speculation, but it is related to folklore as well, so I wanted to talk about it. The fruit that he consumes is, in my opinion, an energy source, a power source in the sense that it is an offering. It's what gives him power and energy. I also see the consumption of sugar, specifically that processed sugar, as a comment on the hidden folk not particularly being a fan of modern construction or modernization without being pre-warned. In addition to that, elves in mythology are said to have a close connection to the sun. There is a term in Norse mythology called a alfrol, which means elf disc, and that loosely implies a connection between elves and the sun. I think this is also why Sportacus has to sleep when the sun goes down and why he wakes up when the sun comes up. Now again, this is speculation, but I digress. Now let's get into more of the theory side of things, and let's look at Robbie and his predecessor, Glani. So in my opinion, Robbie, and by extension Glani, are also elves, or rather the term I would use is fae, from Old French and English folktales. A lot of the depictions behind fae and elves, such as them being magic users, them being evil or mischievous, and being cunning, seems to perfectly exemplify Robbie and Glani as characters. Even Robbie's title as Master of Disguise is similar to how Fae use magic to glamour and disguise themselves in folklore and how they trick people into their realm. He uses magic similar to how fairies use it, and even his overall tempting of children, trying to get them to be lazy, is similar to how old folktales told stories of fairies and fae luring children into the woods. Robbie as a character fits that description of a fae or elf a lot as well. It's interesting to note as well that in the Prose Edda, there are different types of elves, including dark and light elves. Now, this is a very Christianized version of Norse mythology, but the current Icelandic mythology that I could find had a lot of Christian influences, so regardless. In the Prose Edda, light elves, or Loduslafar, tend to have light features, blonde hair, and light eyes. They tend to be present in the light. They are said to live in Alfheimr and prefer higher up, open, and airy spaces. Meanwhile, dark elves, or Dogolfar, tend to have darker features, dark hair and dark eyes, and are said to live in and prefer darker and more underground subterranean places. Additionally, Loduslafar and Dogolfar are two contrasting, almost rivaling types of elves. This is possibly the strongest connection there is to these two characters, Sportacus and Robbie, being either an elf and a fae or both elves, but one, Sportacus, is a Loduslafar and the other, Robbie, is a Dogolfar. So the lore and theory behind Lazy Town is, in my opinion, that both of the characters are old supernatural entities of some sort, and they have a friendly rivalry going on, and they both consider Lazy Town their territory, and they both consider the children important to them. This was a very interesting little dip into folklore. I feel like I've seen a droplet from the huge ocean of mythology and history, but this was all that I could find that was related to the show. I hope you guys enjoyed this little lesson of sorts, and also the little theory stuff as well. Let me know what you think. Again, if you have any knowledge on folklore and mythology, please leave a comment. I would love to learn about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe for more. As always, my membership info, Ko-Fi, Insta, and TikTok are all in the description box below. Again, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!